Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Waters Above. Hope you're all having an incredible start to your week. Sending the Waters Above Wolfpack lots of love. And speaking of wolves, as most of you are aware, on February 1st, I released my full Super Bowl 57 Decoded over on my Patreon and exposed 3 key reasons why I went with the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. And about a week after I released that decode due to popular demand, and after receiving so much feedback asking me what I thought the scores in this game would be, I went ahead and shared the score I was anticipating, with the Chiefs winning 31-21, and the final score ended up at 38-35, which is mind-blowing because the moment the game ended, I just made a quick post down here with KC Wolf, just a little shout out to the Wolfpack, and then I looked at how many followers I had on Twitter, and it was the exact same number as the score of the game, 3538, confirming we are in a simulation. And jokes aside, this was in the top 3 highest scoring Super Bowls on record. I went with a more conservative number, but overall we had the winning team picked out on February 1st. And now that we're here and we have our results, we can use this outcome to further decode the rest of this year, as these big ritual sporting events absolutely play a role into the theatrics that happen on the world stage. And remember, we're just here decoding it and using this esoteric code to our advantage to know what moves to make in this market. So I'll be sharing some of that code with you in today's video and my thoughts on these number connections, as well as going over the crypto market, of course, sharing some technical analysis of my setup for this week as we move into the new moon energy on February 20th, about a week away. So today's analysis is all about preparation for the next move in this market. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, Numerology, and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow our community. And for those of you that are interested in learning how to decode using Gematria and would like to develop the skills so you can read the charts on your own, combining Gematria with technical analysis, or if you're seeking coaching for expanding consciousness, you can visit my website, watersabove.com, and check out my crypto mastermind or my newest expansion mastermind course, available now. The link will be in the description box of this video and in the pinned comment below. And with that being said, let's take the clear pill. So as I was mentioning before, we have the Super Bowl with score 38-35 going to the Chiefs, and this total score adding up to 73 points. And the reason that 73 is important is because 73 is the 21st prime number. So again, just to show you what's going on here, we have 38 plus 35 giving us 73. If we come over here to the prime factor calculator, type in 73, and you're going to see that 21 right there. This is so important because I've made a lot of connections to Saturn with the Chiefs, and you're going to see right here Saturn giving you 21 in multiple ciphers, and you're going to even see how this 69 fits in a moment. But with this 21 connection to the final score, it's big. I'm going to show you a slide from my decode that I shared over on Patreon a couple weeks ago. You could quickly see how important this is this year for Patrick Mahomes, because his birthday is September 17th, which is literally the last day of Rosh Hashanah, or in the year of Jubilee, it would be the last year of Jubilee. All right. This is so critical. It's even coded in by the numbers. If you look from his birthday going to this Super Bowl Sunday, it's 7 months and 5 days away. The 7-5 from Super Bowl 57, as above, so below. One of my number one key points to all of this, and why I thought at the time that the Chiefs would win, was because of this connection to the Shemitah. And again, the Shemitah is the 7-year cycle tied to Saturn. All right. The last Super Bowl the Chiefs won was Super Bowl 54, and it was the year before the Shemitah. then the following year, which was during the Shemitah, they lost. And now here we are with Super Bowl 57, and it's the year after the Shemitah. And not only the year after, but it's a very, very critical one because it's in the super cycle, the 7 times 7, 49 year. On the 59th year, we have Jubilee. So this is critical. You win one, you lose one, and then you recover. And this has everything to do with the 2 scores of the Super Bowl they were in with the 31 points. It was kind of the quick assumption as to why they would get 31 points this game. Just an ultimate flex at how scripted this all is. But you could also see that he was born 1 year after a Shemitah. So he's born 1 year after, and of course he wins this Super Bowl 1 year after a Shemitah on the exact year where Rosh Hashanah happens on his birthday. Remember, Rosh Hashanah is changing every year, guys. So what are the odds? Is it a coincidence? I don't think so. So you could even analyze his number 15. So you have 7 plus 7, the 2 sevens, and the number after 14 is 15. So think about this code. Think about how this is all coded in, as well as that number 15 was playing all year long with the year of the tiger. And we knew that tiger was a negative symbolism, but he is not connected to Jupiter. Patrick Mahomes is connected to Saturn, all right? Whilst Jalen Hurts was all connected to Jupiterian symbolism. And I'll just show you really quickly what I'm talking about here. We had all this coded in, and I went over all of this in my slides in the last decode that I released. It's a profound decode. It really, really set us up with all this key information. But one of my key points here being that winning the Super Bowl before the Shemitah, losing during, and then here we are, winning after. Okay, so let's quickly look into some of the code. And if you take both of the scores from the games they won, so they won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago with 31 points. Now they are here winning this Super Bowl with 38 points. You're going to get 69 in the code. And that 69 goes right back into Saturn, 69. Also, you can take the 2 date numerologies. You have that 57 and the double digit date numerology, which I like to use, as well as standard date numerology. And you could quickly add this up, 57 plus 12, also giving you 69. Again, a number that ties back to Saturn. This is all coming back to Saturn over and over and over again. Remember the score of the game being a total of 73 points, 73 being the 21st prime, 21 being the key number of Saturn. So let's break this down a little bit more. But if you look at the score by quarter, you're going to quickly see, let me find this really quickly, the 3 quarters straight scoring 7 points each, the 7, 7, 7, 7 times 3 is 21. Again, coming back to that Saturn connection. And then you have right here the 1 quarter where they're actually taking it back to win it, they score 17 points. Again, 17 is the 7th prime number. So this is all tied back to the 7s. 3 straight quarters, 777, that's the jackpot number. All right. Now, all of these 7s that I'm talking about are tied to Saturn, the Shemitah, and Jubilee. Remember, 7 times 3 is 21. Saturn is giving you that 21. Bitcoin has 21 million coins in supply. The breakdown of those full Bitcoins are called Satoshis. This is all tied together. All right. This is why it's really important that we pay attention to these rituals, because you will see how they're tied into markets. And I've been exposing that for the past 2 years. So let's move a little bit further into this. If anyone watched my full Super Bowl 57 decoded over on Patreon, which I was talking about at the intro of this, I released this on February 1st, a while in advance. I had 3 deciding factors for the Chiefs winning this Super Bowl. One of them had to do with them losing the year before the Shemitah, winning before, losing during, and then here we are the year after. That to me had a lot to do with the energy cancellation that I was getting throughout my decode, especially with the Eagles. The second factor, which I brought up in my last YouTube video, was this man right here, Doug Williams. This had everything to do with my final decision, actually, going with the Chiefs, because he played for the Redskins, and this Redskins connection to him being the first black quarterback to ever start and win a Super Bowl, again, pulling out the race card. We're here in February, which is Black History Month, again, all part of their code. So This to me was very important, and it was another reason why I thought we would have a decently high score across both teams. Because remember, the game that he won, Doug Williams, was 42-10, which was 52 points, and that 52 were in the year of the rabbit, and the year 52, the year that Doug Williams won with the Redskins, was a year of the rabbit, what we're in right now. This is a big reason why I went with that 52, but nonetheless, I assume we would have a high-scoring game. I didn't know we would get in the top 3 highest scores of all time. This was a really special Super Bowl if you think about it. But anyways, getting back to this, the third key reason I picked the Chiefs to win was the ties to Saturn. And I'll show you the code. We have Saturn in English ordinal giving you 93, and the logo of the Kansas City Chiefs is an arrowhead, and that arrowhead giving you 93. Perfect match in the same cipher. And then I said this quote, which I've been having people feed back to me lately. I said the arrowhead will shoot the eagle out of the sky. I also mentioned how I would expect this game to end in a field goal, and that's exactly how this game ended. So regardless of the score, I mean, I guess people only care about score if they were betting, which I never said I was doing or advised to do. This is not betting or gambling advice. This is a decode. We're not here to predict. We're here to decode. So I was very candid and open about that. It is absolutely wild to watch how this whole game played out and was so close to the very end, winning by that field goal, of course, which was one of the key things I exposed in this exact decode. So anyone could go back and watch that. That was released, 13 days ago. So far in advance, I was sharing not only the winning team, but the way that it would end and a lot of the connections back to Saturn and the symbolism with the arrowhead, as well as the symbolism with the Native Americans, and they're called the Chiefs. And this all ties back to something that's very esoteric that would be hard to get into at this time, but I'll just give you a YouTuber to go check out. His name is Dane Calloway. I speak about it on my channel often, but I knew that this would be a race-related outcome. Again, a big ritual tied to Native Americans. You had the 3 key Super Bowls this was involved in, which was Doug Williams playing for the Redskins, as well as a player for the Seahawks, and then here you are with a player, the Chiefs. And now Patrick Mahomes being the so-called black quarterback to have the most Super Bowl wins with 2. Again, this isn't my language. This is not the way I speak or the way I think. I don't look at life through identity like this, but this is the way the narrative and the theatrics and the bread and circus media talks. So we just have to use this esoteric information that we have, these skills, and their exoteric nonsense, combine it all together, and we could be able to determine these events. And that's all we did with this outcome. So again, go out, follow me on Twitter if you're interested in these updates. I mean, this was an absolutely amazing code playing itself out. 3538, the final score being 3538. Shout out to KC Wolf. I mean, it's funny that their mascot is a wolf. I didn't even know that actually until I was finishing up my decode. This shows you how little I know about sports. Again, I was just having fun with it. Really more to get the decoding information so I could get the power of these numbers. Now we have a big number to work with, that 38. Also, remember this 35. I spoke about it in my decode as well, because Lionel Messi is tied to this 35. Let me just quickly show you this. He is 35 years old. I brought this up in that decode as well. 35 is a part of this sequence to consider, again, tied to Shemitah. And if you look at when Lionel Messi won the World Cup for Argentina and take it back to when Diego Maradona won the World Cup for Argentina, you'll see the connections. This was a ritual. He wore number 10. Diego Maradona wore number 10. The guy, Jimmy Garoppolo, that played for the 49ers, wore number 10. He got injured on the 13th game of the season, and then we see all the 13 rituals with the 49ers, which led us to the last game the Eagles played where they won with 31 points to end the 13-game potential winning streak for the 49ers. And then now here we are, and we see how this game turned out where they lost. And I was really diving deep into the numbers in the code, and that was the point of that decode. It wasn't to make predictions or anything. It's not to brag. It's really just to expose how this is all part of the syncretism. And I hope you guys see that clearer now. So let's get into some of the charts. We could see Bitcoin actually heading a little bit lower today. We had a couple days in the weekend just trading sideways after a little bit of a bigger pullback. We were anticipating a pullback down into the 21.5 area. That is exactly where we're at now. So if you go back and watch my last YouTube video, you'll see I said Bitcoin coming back to 21.5 was where I would anticipate. It's exactly where it is as we're talking in this video. It's great to see this come to fruition, and now everyone's wondering, are we going to keep going lower? So I've also brought up in the video the CME chart and how the CME does have a gap down here at 20K, between 20K and 20,500. That is something to consider with that gap. I also brought up in the last YouTube video that I would at least anticipate 21.5 to be retested, and perhaps the CME gap gets cleared later. The idea behind this would be if the market wants to just have a shorter back test, keep it very bullish, send it off through March and into April as we're anticipating somewhere in the mid 40,000 Bitcoin, and then maybe have a lower relief rally, like only get to 40 to 43K, something like that. Then roll over, fill the gap later in the year, maybe around the summertime or perhaps even into the October eclipse. We've been talking a lot about these eclipses, and the theory here is that we're going to move up into those eclipses, which is in April 20th and May 5th. So we have a lot of time. If we go between today and April 20th, we still have about 65 days. And if we're taking it to the 5th, you can see that we have a full 80 days ahead. So tons of time to watch Bitcoin pretty much go up 100% from where it is today. People might not think that's possible, but Bitcoin and crypto does that all the time. So here in the short term, we are pivoting into this quarter moon. I've talked about this many, many times, how the first quarter and third quarter moon have been seemingly important, that it is the microcycle lows. We have a little bit of a pivot. Let me clear what I just said. The full moon is our microcycle lows, but it's tending to be specifically around these first quarter and third quarter moons, pivoting between this full moon cycle. I assume the reason this is happening is because of the last eclipse that we had, that epic eclipse that wiped out FTX, and we know that Sam Bankman-Fried ritual they did. It's seemingly why these first and third quarter moons are important, and I brought this up in several videos, how I'm looking at February 13th as a very key date. Here we are today. It is February 13th. We're heading down a little bit lower. We do have a stock market that's bullish. We're seeing 300 points on the Dow. So it's just showing you like how insane this market is. Typically when you're seeing 300 points up on the Dow, 1% across the Dow, S&P 500 and NASDAQ, you would see bullish price in Bitcoin. But again, they're leveling this out pretty nicely, building a little bit of support on these prior backtest areas that needed to be tested anyways. Because if you guys remember my YouTube videos when we were pushing up into here, I was telling you this 12-hour RSI is very overheated. We were seeing 12-hour RSI at 95, price sitting at 21.3. Then we're pumping up into 23, 24K, but we can see a downtrend in RSI, which is just a bearish divergence. So I knew that we were going to correct, and here we are. We're actually starting to get close to oversold on the 12-hour RSI. So you could see how quickly the tides turn, guys. And this is a signal to me that we're getting ready to bounce, recover, and keep it moving. So if we just look at 12-hour RSI, I mean, we're comparing this back to November of 2022. This was a fast move from top to bottom, as above, so below. Now, I would love for this market to come down to 20,000 flat right now, but the market doesn't give me what I want. And I'm not saying that's my analysis. I brought this up in yesterday's Red Pill podcast. So any of you that are interested in joining my Patreon, I also list Red Pill out right here. And you can see that 98 episodes, we're almost at 99. I mean, it's absolutely mind-blowing. We're getting close to 100 podcasts. I appreciate every single one of you, but we went over a couple of awesome projects in that, some that I haven't looked at in a while. Definitely some shaky coins that I wouldn't be paying too much attention to necessarily just because they're overvalued. But, we're having fun with this, and in this podcast, I shared all of my examples and reasoning in TA as to why I feel like It would be better if we went down to 20K now, but the market doesn't give me what I want. So I've been dollar cost averaging this whole time. I shared that I am now releasing my investment updates. So whenever I'm going to be making investments or updating my portfolio, I will be sharing it with everyone over on the Discord that's connected to our Patreon. So again, if you're a Patreon supporter, patreon.com/watersabove, you'll be able to get access to that as one of the perks. It's not my main perk. I'm not doing this to have people follow what I'm doing. I was not actually going to do this, but I thought, this is just for transparency, me sharing what I'm doing. I already am very candid about my whole investment thesis and my philosophy on this market. So I've done my part. I have my skills. I teach skills, and that's really what I want people to take away from my work anyways, to become self-reliant. But I have been sharing this information, and like I said, if we were to get a pullback to 20, I would definitely heavily accumulate some final moves because I would anticipate a bounce there anyways, technical bounce, and then after that, 25,000 is most likely in the cards. So the big key level to pay attention to, guys, is 25K at this time. 25K is very, very important. Let me just get back to this chart, remove some of this nonsense, and you can see, let's go to the daily. Let's look at where we're at on daily RSI. We're starting to break below 50, so again, not looking great. Let's look at some of our, okay, so this is important to pay attention to. We have this 200 exponential flatlining. That 200 exponential is going to be a key support. If we close below that, though, I would suspect the swipe down next key level would be right where I was talking about. That CME gap at 20K down to 19.7. That would be the gap, the 200 simple moving average. It'd be very interesting if we were to pull down that quick. But remember, Bitcoin does these things where it could pull down fast and then it can move right back up. We see it happen all the time where you have like these inverse twin tower moments. You could see a big wick over there. We get pulled right back up. We're in the midst of trend reversal now in a bullish conversation. So that's why I said in the intro of this video, you got to pay attention. This is really some of the final moments. Another thing we're seeing here, talking about 25K on the upside, is on the weekly chart. We have the 200 exponential and 200 simple squeezing together right there. Now that to me is showing that if we can start closing weeklies above that, that would be the main indicator that we're heading up to the finality of an automatic rally, and that could be fast. So consider that the 200 simple, 200 exponential pinching together right around 25K, that's going to be a short-term resistance, or Bitcoin just going to straight blast through it. And if it blasts through it without backtesting 20K first, then that's a signal to me that it will probably get really overheated really fast and then come back down and fill that CME gap later. So those are the two main scenarios. Either we hold our level now, we come up and finish our automatic rally, have a blast through these levels, or we have short-term fill the CME gap first, quick bounce, and then we head up. And if that was to come to fruition, I believe we would actually probably get as high as the mid 40s, maybe into 50K, if we were to pull down first, because this is all what the market maker likes to do. They like to shake out leverage players. So if they could liquidate everyone that had a long bias opened up at top, well, that's just the game they play. So I hope this makes a little bit of sense, but in the short term, pay attention to this 200 exponential moving average. If we hold it on the daily, that's just fine. But we don't have a lot of days to go before we get to that new moon. The new moon will be on the 20th. In my last podcast, Red Pill 98, I released a key date coming up later in this week, the 17th. So you guys over there, definitely check that out. I filled everyone in with that information. Really, really wild connections for sure. And I do feel by next week, we should probably be in a recovery zone. So I'm using this week as just a dollar cost averaging time frame. Let's look at what's going on with Ethereum. Okay, so ETH actually started to trade below the 200 exponential. Looks a little different than Bitcoin. Of course, this is a more volatile asset class, but we're coming right down to these key moving averages, the 55 simple moving average and the 200 simple. Having a back test right there around 14,444 would be a key level, and gauging by how quick we went from 88 RSI on the daily to now we're sitting at 40. Today we could be closing in below 40 RSI. This went too dramatic, too fast to the upside, and now it's just returning back to reality. And these are some key levels to be looking at. I would look for around 1440 for sure. Definitely a nice level. Now, we can swoop lower, and that would be indicative of Bitcoin going back to 20K. If Bitcoin was to go back to 20K, I would assume that we would probably head down to 1350. So it seems dramatic, but it's just another day in the matrix for this coin. You know, we see swings like this all the time. We go up 115%, pull back 30%, go up an additional 30%, pull back 30. I mean, this is just what altcoins do, right? 30% up, another 30%, just up and down over and over. Look at this, 47%. So a 30% correction from here would actually be putting us into 11. I don't think we're at that point anymore now because we're just in a different phase of this market and we're getting closer to that solar eclipse. And I told you, if we're in a solar cycle, Bitcoin moving into a solar eclipse, it's going to be a bullish energy when we move into it. Now, out of it is a different story, and that's kind of where this sell in May, walk away thesis comes back into play. Let's get into some of the levels. So, I mean, for me, I would assume this should be a back-tested level. That would actually fill the CME gap on ETH. So let's quickly look at that. Are we not going to get it? Yeah, oh, we pretty much filled it. Yeah, we filled it already. So if you guys look really close, you're going to see that we back tested this area right there. So CME gap on ETH is filled for sure. And let's look at some upside targets. So at this time, getting that 1444 would be great. But if we were to have a little bit of a bounce from there, I'd be looking at about 1555. If we could get above that level, which is the 8 simple moving average, that would be a sign for recovery. And then the next key level up would be 1670. Let's look at XRP and just wrap up this video because I want to try to keep this one short today. All right, so XRP is coming closer to that 35-cent target. That was something that I shared in my red pill. I saw us potentially closing below this white moving average, which is the 55. Let me turn off the drawing so you could see. Closing below that 55 would definitely, for me, signal 35 cents, and we're pretty damn close. We got down to 362, so within, a hair of this. And then you have this really long-term trend line, which has been at play going back to April of 2021, and that would just be back testing the outside of this trend line, which is great. You can see after we popped up above it, we held it, got a little bit extended. Now we're just returning pretty much right back to it. This is a very important trend line. And if you look, the apex of this trend line hits in on February 25th, and it's going back so long, pretty much going back, in my opinion, to prior cycles. Pretty much the starting point of XRP. It looks like a weird trend line, but it's actually really key. We have here is the bull trap before we went into a selling climax. Then we have here was this first leg up, perfectly rejected. Then at the end of this buying climax, or the current all-time high, we return back to it for the C19 scam. Then we have one test before having the flare launch, SEC case, dump, return right back to it. Just this key trend line is amazing. And here we are. We're almost at the apex, February 26th, 25th. We're getting so close. So we're moments away, and I would say that 35 cents is pretty much right there. Anyways, I'm going to continue to accumulate a little bit of XRP. I'll be sharing my buying targets over on the Discord that's included in the Patreon membership, of course. I hope you guys enjoyed today's decode and all the information tied to it. I appreciate all of your support. Wishing you all a beautiful rest of your day in the Matrix. And any of you that came over to my Patreon and have joined a membership, I'm really grateful for your support. It really means the world to me. And welcome to the Wolf Pack. It's so great to have you here with us. Again, appreciate every single one of you. Much love.